just never knew how to tell you.
I would be able to talk about my life.
I ever loved a vodka.
I have 2 moms. You want me to say it out loud?
Fresh talk coming at you, something like this, all about sexuality. Yo, Simone, you with me? Concerning you and me, I'd like to know a few things about sexuality. Take a look at personal history, unlock these emotional mysteries. Listen up, adjust your mood, you gotta educate your attitude. We should agree the importance of practice and responsibility.
You are not at liberty to treat me like your property.
Nah, you gotta learn the difference between the innocence and the ignorance. There's no honor in being rude.
Educate your attitude. My attitude, gonna educate my attitude.
You got to
educate my attitude. Looking at the nasty and the fine. Trying to decide if you should draw the line. What's the measure of the pleasure or the gain in pain? Let's make it clear.
You gotta educate your attitude.
I'm gonna educate my attitude. I'm gonna educate my attitude. Educate my attitude.
Fresh talk coming at you.
Educate my attitude.
This is critical. A person that's political, no open and shut case. Respect religion and race, whether you're gay or if you're straight. It's never too late to communicate. This is the place to earn some face. Fresh talk will keep you in the race of reality, not sentimentality. So put this in your memory when it comes to sexuality.
Listen up, I just don't know and educate your attitude. I wanna educate my attitude.
You got to.
Educate my
You gotta educate your attitude to be smart, because you gotta be safe. It's better to be safe than real sorry.
Media images like these give us cues on how to look and what sexual roles to play. But do you know how to say what you feel inside? If you buy into image alone, you may confuse body language with a full conversation.
It was this whole self-image thing, and I knew that I loved women and wanted to be with women, but I didn't know how to go about that. I didn't know where the lesbian community was, and I had my own homophobic ideas, so I think I drank a lot. I'm not a drinker at the best of times, so that was a bad idea. And just really confused and unhappy for a long time, trying to deal with it. I still think of myself as coming out. I think I'll always be coming out. I think it's like a process that, I mean, I come out every day in little ways, but coming out like to myself was just learning to accept. Like, it took me a long time to be able to say I'm a lesbian. I called myself bi for a long time. That was when I was like having sporadic one-night stands with men, but really loving women. I'm bi. I'd still never slept with a woman before in my life, but I knew that I loved them.
You know, and I went through the stage of having like nail polish and being really concerned about fashion magazines, and you know, I was a Barbie doll, I guess. But I don't know, I guess sort of all through high school I had the, you know, the big L in my head, only then it stood for loser. And I was always on the fringes of the groups. And my friends were also on the fringes, and so our stock sort of rose and fall depending on, you know, whether or not we had boyfriends, first of all, and then who the boyfriends were, right? So you got X points for going out with a football player, and then, you know, lost a few points if it was, you know, if the boy was a geek or a brain or something like that. Yeah, I had a boyfriend. His name was Pig. And I don't know, I guess we had a sort of a real love-hate relationship because he was a football player and his attitude was I should sort of be grateful to him for saying hello to me, or like driving me places or whatever, or just for being, just for existing. And I of course thought that was a total crock of shit, but for some reason every now and again, we had a sort of on and off again relationship. And every now and again, I guess the acceptance was important enough to me that I would play in for a little while before I'd say, oh, fuck you all, and break up with them yet again.
As a teenager, starting from the age of 13, when, all these raging hormones start happening and you're basically a walking hormone, you just want to, experience things and be experienced. Of course, I knew I was gay, and I didn't want to acknowledge that or accept it. I just wanted to numb my sense and sensibilities to that. So I did a lot of drugs and I did a lot of alcohol. I mean, from the age of 13 to the age of my early 20s, I did a lot of denial and numbing of my senses. So, because I didn't want to deal with my sexuality. I didn't want to deal with my homosexuality. And as a result, I think that sort of retarded my growth, my emotional growth, a little. Because sooner or later, you are going to have to deal with these emotions and these feelings that you are putting on the shelf. Because in order to go on with your life, you have to deal with these things. I believe I was conceived gay. I mean, I was gay even before I came out of my mother's womb. I mean, I was meant to be gay. I don't think anyone would choose to be gay. I don't think it's a learned behavior. I mean, why would you choose to be ostracized, condemned, hated, and, by the vast majority of society?
My parents' reaction to my coming out to them as a lesbian, I just recently came out to them. I wrote them a letter. They don't live in the same city as me, and I also didn't want to tell them over the phone. I thought that would be a little seedy. So I told them in a letter, a really well-written letter, of course. I'd written it about 50 times, so it was well-edited. And well, they're dealing with it still, I suppose, but, I mean, where they're coming from is basically they're Baptists. My father's a born-again Christian and has completely just come at it from that angle. He thinks that, I'm going straight to hell in a handbasket, and that if I repent now, that God might not even take me back. So, and my mom's trying to deal with it more. She's sort of more understanding.
There are people, women who say, I was born lesbian, like they're in love with Mrs. Klepacik in grade 3, and they went home and they said, Mom, I'm in love with Mrs. Klepacik. And Mom said, don't worry, dear, you'll grow out of it. And they knew they were never going to grow out of it, and they were, in fact, in love with Mrs. Klepacik, and that, in fact, there's nothing for them to grow out of. And so, of course, I went through the mandatory question, gee, I wonder if I'm a lesbian. And, since I was having relationships with men, it seemed pretty obvious that the answer was no. And then, yeah, so I found myself making love with a woman, and then I had to, rethink. That it was like, well, not right at the time, of course, but afterwards I was like, First I found myself dancing with her, then I found myself kissing her, then I found myself leaving the bar with her, then I found myself in a parked car at the Rideau Falls, a K car, I believe. Well, I mean, I've always thought that, women are physically several times more attractive than men. And maybe that's media, right? Because, you grow up, you see, like, the Charlie girl walking past or whatever, and women are always held up in the media as, of course it's all pornography, but they're held up as, the things especially that are attractive, Like that's how, you buy a car, get a free girl, buy a beer, get a free girl, all that kind of stuff.
It's better to be safe than real sorry.
Everyone knows of safe sex, but not everyone does safe sex. Still, I mean, belonging to a very high-risk group, that's the buzzword, I guess, for gay men, I've been guilty of not having safe sex myself. And when I first came out, because like I said, all I wanted to do was have sex with men. Because, I mean, I was a virgin until I was 21. I mean, for fuck's sake, get it together. Let's have some sex here. And So I sort of, my hormones went out over my mind, and when I knew what was right. But at that moment, when you're together, and everything seems so right and feels so right, you know, you don't stop and think, you know, hey, my life may be in danger. You know, I may be killing myself right now. Through luck, it's I'm negative, you know, but that's only through luck because I was really stupid. And I'd like to say I will always practice safe sex, but I know that's probably not true. Because I'm human, and I can get caught up in the moment.
A lot of them, let's say, got a majority of them were drunken one-night stands. You know, not just "Hi, baby, you want to go fuck" type of thing. You know, it's more like you're in a bar or you're at a party and you meet these people and you have a couple of drinks and okay, blame it on the booze, but I'm not saying I wouldn't have otherwise. In some occasions I would have, but let's say more of them, I've found myself doing more things than I wouldn't occasionally do. I can only speak for me, but I think it's a lot of people that are lonely, and the more I look back, you know, I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years now, and I look back and it's not a way to deal with loneliness. Sure, it's a shortcut, or it's a way of fulfilling pleasure for those, whatever, that night or those hours or whatever. I mean, it does give you some kind of pleasure, but most of the times I've woken up not so impressed with myself, you know? Some other times that man thing in me would go, all right, dude, another one, cool, you know? But,
So how many one-night stands do you think you've had?
Oh,
Keep track.
no, I don't really keep track, but I'd say about 25 or so.
And what about protection?
Oh, what protection? I've used the rubber once.
Part of his fear of getting very close to me is that I am HIV positive, and so there is a fear of infection. And he was never certain of his status, and now he's gone and had it confirmed, and so he knows he's not HIV positive. For me, there's also that burden because I'm afraid that I might infect him, you know, and then I suffer all of that guilt that's associated. There's also the fear of my own mortality, that I'll get involved in this relationship and, you know, halfway down his line, I'll be gone. I didn't feel like I had power in my relationships that I could say, you're going to use a condom or we're not going to have sex, or I'm going to use a condom or we're not going to have sex. I didn't feel the power to make those kinds of demands. You just think that somehow you're immune. You're too young, you're too poor, you're too black, you're too... you're in a city that's too small where, you know, none of these big city things ever come. Some reason or other, you were going to be immune.
I do consider myself very liberated because I advocate women having condoms, and I'm not too trustworthy of like artificial, well, it is sort of artificial contraception, but I don't advocate like the pill, whereas it destroys your body, you know, or the IUD, but I'm right on for the condoms. Did you bring some with you? Oh yeah, I never leave home without them. Don't leave home without them. They're like my best friends. You know what? When I use condoms, like most guys don't realize that I'm using it, you know, like they don't sort of know when it gets on, you know, so it's like, it's the whole technique about it, but everybody has to develop their own technique. Oh, definitely be safe. If you find you're in a situation whereas you can't, where there's no condom or there's no contraceptives, try an alternative, you know. There's always oral. There's always, making love doesn't have, or sex doesn't have to be penetration, you know. It could be a soft caress. It could be something.
Educated.
critical. A person that's political, no open and shut case. Respect religion and race, whether you're gay or if you're straight. It's never too late to communicate. This is the place to earn some base.
I was coming out to myself, accepting the label lesbian or homosexual, or accepting that I was not straight. That for me was, it was like seeing the world in a totally different way, because what I had been taught was so sacred, most sacred all the time, was that a man plus a woman, and a man plus a woman, and that's what I saw everywhere on TV and magazines and books. Everything. There just wasn't any acknowledgement of another alternative. There was one instance when I called up the parish priest, and I said, it occurs to me now that there were several areas of my education that weren't touched upon. And I guess I was pretty annoyed, and I wanted to talk to him, and I wanted some answers. And I thought that it not letting it be known that being homosexual was a valid way of being. He was basically holding back information, and with so many youths under his control, that was really not a good thing. And his response to me was that I must be having some problems and I should see a psychiatrist.
So put this in your memory when it comes to sexuality.
Listen up, I'm just a mood and advocate your attitude.
I think it's dangerous to be a lesbian, in that homophobia is so institutionalized. You know, like, our society is homophobic. It's okay to be anti-gay in our society. I mean, the Human Rights Code refuses to admit sexual orientation. You know, they say no, it's, you know, that's not something that they will include in the code. So it is dangerous. I've experienced really homophobic attitudes. I've quit jobs because of homophobia. I've been fired from jobs because of homophobia. I've been yelled at, spit on. I've been physically accosted on the street. It's more important to me to be happy and to be out as a lesbian than to live a lie, you know, to lie all the time to those people that are important to me. So I've prioritized that I'm more important than my parents or than, you know, my friends' images of me. And a lot of my friends have really stuck by me. A lot of them have come out too.
Listen up, I'm just a mood and advocate your attitude.
I mean, I marched in the Gay Pride Day parades. I always do. I mean, that's once a year, and, you know, you hide from the city TV cameras and stuff like that. But, you know, because you don't want people at work or to know, because, you know, of course, you fear their reactions, and sometimes your fear is worse and overblown than their reactions. Because when I told my friends, my straight friends that I grew up with from high school, I've known these guys for like 13 years. I told them, finally had enough guts, you know, to tell them a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And like, these guys, you know, macho straight guys, you know, go out to clubs and pick up girls and all that stuff. And they cried, you know. 3 out of the 5 guys cried and hugged me. They all hugged me. They all told me they loved me. And they all wished I had came out to them earlier.
I was sexually abused when I was 5 years old. And it hurt like hell. It hurt. It's not supposed to happen to a kid. You're not supposed to get raped anally by a great big grown man, you know. All these adults can take care of you. You know, this is your babysitter. This is Uncle Nice. Yeah, right. It fucked me up. Because when I was 12, I went out and I abused. Never-ending cycle. I would say go for counseling. It's really helped me. Go for one-on-one counseling because, I mean, you're not going to want to discuss this abuse in a group. Never will. It's too immense. I mean, for a man's ego to turn around to walk into a room. It's like, is this a rape crisis center? Yeah, well, I've been raped. Yeah, right. But you can see that. I mean, you're never going to see that. But if you can, within yourself, say, yeah, I have been abused. Yeah, I have abused. Help me.
This poem is about an experience I had when I was 5 that has affected me for a long time, and I finally released it by writing this poem. I can still smell his semen. Oh, I want to puke. I couldn't say, no words. Was it my fault? All I want to do is puke it out of me. All I want to do is puke it out of me! He's made it dirty for a long time. Too long. Dirty good for nothing. I swallowed then as I swallow now. Can't look nobody in the eye. Can't look nobody in the eye. See men come. Watch me run away.
I was sexually abused, and that taught me that I was underprivileged. I was not part of the powerful, that someone else controlled who I am and who I am going to be. And I'm going to be this nothing. I'm not, I can't think, I can't say no, I can't respond at all. And what had happened from that was, because I didn't feel like I had the power to say no, to say, listen, you're not allowed to do this to me. This is my body, and you're not allowed to touch me in this way. You're invading, and you're raping me, and not only physically but mentally. You're taking something away from me that should be mine. When I was sleeping with men, it was because they wanted to sleep with me, not because I wanted to sleep with them. And I would, a lot of times, pretend that I was asleep. I thought, perhaps, if I can't say no, at least I can discourage them by being asleep, by being not a part of the situation. Maybe they'll get the idea, but it never happened. I was always raped in that way. I learned from those experiences that it doesn't matter what I think. And my sexuality, I don't own it. Someone else owns it. And males own it. The media owns it. I don't own it. So I'm trying to take that power back. And so I join organizations where, it's like the Take Back the Night March, where I walk the streets and I demand my rights as a woman to walk the streets.
I discovered sexuality very young, and I think that I spent a lot of time wondering if it was too young. I was with a girlfriend, and we found a Playboy book in my parents' bedroom. And so there we were, about 5 years old, and we find this Playboy book. Maybe we were 5 or 6. And we opened it up, and we started looking through it, and it had like all these bisexual scenes in it, and we were like very curious. So, right away, as 2 children, we set out to try every scene in this book. And then, sure enough, we tried every scene in the book. My mother actually, what's the word for it? She thought that it was normal for children to masturbate, which, of course it is. But, it was like, she was very open with it. Sure, go ahead, go into the tub and masturbate. You know what I mean? Which is good, actually, when you think about it. But since then, I've got a great masturbating life.
Gay sex no longer depends on penetration any longer, at least with my sexual experiences I've had. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of time I've had anal sex with a man, and that was with my lover. I mean, sex doesn't mean penetration anymore. I mean, eroticizing the whole body, not focusing just on anal sex, has become a necessity. I think monogamy is very important to me. It's not because it's the new thing that's been imposed upon our society these days because of the media and all the hype over AIDS and stuff. It's not that. It's just very important to me. I think I need to feel I belong completely to someone, and I need that person to belong to me completely. I'm not into this new 90s, you know, let's be hip and civilized and let's share our love. You know, I've got so much love to give, so I'll give it to him, 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 and him. You know, I've got, you know, I like to give love to one person.
One night stands are great, you know. Every now and then everybody needs to go, you know, just get laid. But then there's that times when you want to be special, you know, with the fire going and a bottle of Moet and, you know, someone special there, you know, good conversation. You know what I like? I like to make a fast set of Jell-O in the tub and just, ooh, but I really should. You know how you quick set Jell-O with ice and the Jell-O and cold water and let it get like there, and you like sort of hop in and play like you're two whales or seals, like, you know. Ooh.
It's fun.
It's great fun.
Try
it.
What color of Jell-O?
What color Jell-O? Well, red is always the move, right? It's always the bump. But if you want to get really kinky, there's a blue one, and it's like, yeah.
I've decided that I do, in fact, like to get fucked. I thought I did. I had this sneaking suspicion back here. But, you know, sometimes you get people and they're fucking you, and, you know, some men, they fuck like they're trying to get something out of their system sort of thing. You know, they just jump in there and bang, 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 and then it's over and they jump off and that was good for me. Was it good for you? And you're like, gee, I felt like a hole in the mattress. But, yeah, I am so happy that you're finished, sort of thing. No, I like people who, you know, they're going to take their time. They recognize that there's a person on the other side of their penis. You know, that person is supposed to be there to enjoy themselves as well. And
This is going to be really rash, and I hope all of you watching this don't get offended. But I love a man who could eat pussy until my fingernails go into the headboards, you know, and oh, God. But what I really like to say is, you know, don't be afraid of your sexuality or your urges. People don't really have to know your business or who you screw or how you screw or what you do when you screw, if you screw. You know, it's just be free, you know.
I'm gay. I'm 25. I'm sexually active. I enjoy men. Spank me.
Fresh talk coming at you, something like this, all about sexuality. Yo, Simone, you with me? Concerning you and me, I'd like to know a few things about sexuality. Take a look at personal history, unlock these emotional mysteries. Listen up, adjust your mood, you gotta educate your attitude. We should agree the importance of practice and responsibility.
You are not at liberty to treat me like your property.
Nah, educate your attitude.